Okay, welcome everyone, and welcome to this amazing sort of evening we've got tonight over the next hour or so with Chris Thompson and myself. I'm Phil Kelly. I'm from an organisation called Pro-Noctis. We're a human performance company, and we've partnered with HIGH5 tonight to bring you this amazing sort of event and conversation and an insight into an elite athlete who's been there for a long period of time now and has consistently performed at the highest possible level. Before we go into the actual conversation, I'm going to hand over to Gemma from HIGH5, who's going to set a bit of the picture around the background of how this came to be tonight and what the plans are, and also, you know, why HIGH5 have done it. So Gemma, over to you.
Thanks, Phil. Hi everybody, welcome to the second of our HIGH5 webinar series. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Just to give you some background, I did do this last time, but for those of you that didn't make it, I'll just kind of say again why we're doing this. So we launched our HIGH5 Club Rewards program back in March earlier this year as a way of connecting with and supporting our sort of sporting communities. These webinars are an extension of that program. So we wanted to provide a way for connecting our elite athletes with our sporting communities to hopefully give you guys some inspiration, some insights into the athletes' lives, and some motivation to keep running, even though there's not too many goals at the moment to look forward to. Last time we had Vicky Holland, who is a Olympic triathlon bronze medalist at the 2016 Olympic Games. And next time we're hoping to do the same sort of thing with a couple of riders from the Bora Hansgrove team. So cycling focus next time. So that means we've had triathlon, then we've had running, and then the next one will be cycling, and then we will continue. We'll do a different theme every time we do them. Just to remind you who I am, so I'm Gemma. I manage the HIGH5 Club Rewards program as part of my role with HIGH5, and I've been with the brand for 3 years now. My background's also elite sport. I'm an ex-professional 800-meter runner, and this is where I met Christopher, tonight's athlete, who is going to chew your ear off for an hour. Anyway, I don't want to go on too much, but on to the main event. Christopher, he loves to talk, but he also happens to be quite a good runner. So let's see what he has to say to inspire you tonight. Over to Phil.
Cheers, Gemma. Thanks very much for that. And there you go. There was a little bit of banter, and very much, you know, the way it's going to be running tonight is very light-hearted and discussion-based and conversation-based. So just to set a little bit of ground rules, guys, those that have joined early probably heard it, but just to repeat myself a little bit, if we can just keep the microphones and cameras off in the background, please, that will really help us with the bandwidth. We could have up to 600 people joining tonight. We've already up to 2 already. And of course, we'll have a few latecomers arriving. And just to sort of whet your appetite of what could happen later on, we've also got a giveaway on behalf of HIGH5 as well. So we've got a little game of roulette later on towards the end, picked by Chris. So we've got 5 lucky winners that we'll be able to sort of choose at random, and they'll be getting a lovely little gift and prize from HIGH5 directly after that. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Chris, how the devil are you today? What a 12 months we've had. Let's get straight into that straight away.
Yeah, hi. Well, nice. Thanks for having me. I got to apologise for the beard. We moved and I've lost my razor. So that's, I wouldn't normally look like this, but it's, Gemma did have a go at cutting my hair the other day, she took a risk, but this is all very lockdown looky for the last 12 months. But yeah, what a 12 months we've had. And hopefully we're looking, there's some races on the horizon, and we can, the virtual races that have been going on will turn into actual races, and we can look forward to a really good 2021.
Yeah, hopefully. So let's talk about that then. We'll just naturally roll the conversation. So have you been taking part in virtual races?
So I did do one I run a race, a turkey trot in this Manchester Turkey Trot, which is Thanksgiving, obviously end of November. And I ran that as a virtual event. And it was a road race. I was actually beaten by someone that ran it on a track rather than a road. As people might find with virtual races, there's, you know, it all comes in, all's fair in virtual racing.
Yeah, fair one.
So I have done that. I was signed up to a couple of Aldershot, because my club is Aldershot Farnham District. It was when I was a young kid, and I signed up to a couple of them, but unfortunately they didn't happen because of again, things changed suddenly, and it was just before Christmas, but I did run London Marathon in October, so I was very lucky to be part of that elite COVID bubble that we formed. But by and large, I've been very much in my own little world, doing training like a lot of us, and trying to find the motivation through the joy of running, which is the motivation, the well-being, the health side of it, and really kind of almost fall in love with running for what it gives you, more than just the reward of a successful race or a medal, and that's all great. But sometimes I think this year, hopefully, a lot of people, as I have found that running just gives you so many things in ways that sometimes you can forget and almost take for granted, and I think that's been something that's been a real positive for me this year.
Yeah, you definitely come across as a bit of a purist. You're in it because you love running, and the fact that you can commit yourself to it and enhance yourself to elite level is brilliant. But it's all about running for you.
Well, it's funny because I did a Q&A recently, and it was actually to do with my relationship with running, and it's going to be launched in March actually, and it was effectively almost you're writing a letter to running, like dear running, and putting your thoughts and feelings about it. It sounds a little bit corny, but it was actually it was interesting that how, when I look back through my career, how running evolved for me. And it was very much when I was younger, it's very much I found running through a love of sport, but also primarily a love of the love of making friends and the friendships I made. And running was something I did, but friendship was kind of the glue that I found. I enjoyed the pushing my body. I enjoyed trying to find my limits, but I did that with all sports. But running was the one that I found I got the strongest bonds through my club, Aldershot, Farnham District. That was what stuck and kept me here. And I can see, I'm looking across the way at my wedding photos from last year, or the year before now, actually. 3 of my ushers are Aldershot runners that I met through running. And then as I got better, it then became a bit more serious, and running became about a little bit more about the success and being that obsessed with trying to achieve more, and the PBs and representing Great Britain. And then as I went, there was a moment in my career where that level of obsession and that level of kind of perfectionism I was searching for was almost sort of affecting my decision making. And there was Nick Simmons, who I think if there was a couple of questions that were sent in asking about my time in America, which we can go into more detail later, but an athlete called Nick Simmons, who, if anyone doesn't know, he's an American 800-meter runner who made, I think, 5 World Championship finals on the trot. And he had a moment where I think he was 5th at the London 2012 Olympics, and he spoke to a psychologist about it. And they said, well, you were 5th, but if you'd have finished 4th, how would you have felt? And they said, well, I would have wished I was 3rd. Okay, well, if you'd have finished 3rd, how would you have felt? Well, I'd have wished I was 2nd. Okay, well, if you were 2nd, if you won the race, how would you have felt? Well, I'd have felt it was a weak year. And a penny kind of dropped for me, because I won a European medal in 2010, and I was 2nd behind Mo Farah. If I'm jumping about a bit, so hopefully people know a little bit about my history. But and I realised that you will always find, when you've got that mentality of perfectionism, you'll always find a reason to kind of belittle it a little bit. And I found that was kind of that wasn't necessarily helpful or healthy. And so I ended up. So that then evolved into a bit more of a tuning it into a more of a love of the routine and the creating good habits, and alongside the goals and the drive and the aim. And I think running has evolved into this thing that hopefully will carry me on running till I can't anymore, because that obsessiveness was great for that period of time, but it was definitely something that I needed to kind of come out the other side to keep that longevity in me.
Well, definitely. There's so many things we can talk around there, Chris. But I think one of the things I was hearing was, maybe earlier on when you were getting to that serious competitive stage, that it was all about maybe the outcome, the race, the being competitive. Where it sounds now you're starting to look at the process a little bit more, defining it, but enjoying the process, and almost letting the result take care of itself to a certain degree.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's because it's you set a goal. Well, I set a goal, and then I create a plan to achieve that goal, and the habits I need to form, and then I forget what the goal is, and then I start living those habits and those routines and the plan to work towards that goal. But I forget about it. I park it up. But I set what it is, and that plan obviously can be whatever is necessary. Like, for instance, recently, because I coach a bit as well, and I had two very different pandemic experiences where I really backed off my training and then racked it up for when I did the London Marathon in October. But a chap I coach, unfortunately, was running really well initially, got out the blocks hard with the pandemic because he was in a really good place physically. He got a bit of an injury. He couldn't see his physio that he normally would see because of lockdown. And he kind of hit a bit of a funk. And I was having a conversation with him in August. I said, look, we can't keep banging our heads against a brick wall here. Let's take a step back. And I said, the aim is at Christmas, we need to have you happy and healthy. And you need to forget about what level of fitness you're at or anything like that. And we don't want to worry about any kind of virtual races or anything that may come up. Let's get you happy and healthy by Christmas. And then I challenged myself to try and get him fitter through training without him necessarily realizing it. So we both had our separate goals and aims, but it was a different kind of journey. And then he just focused daily on, right, I need to be happy and I need to be healthy. And he focused on that more than his fitness. And sometimes it's just about resetting things like that and giving yourself a more achievable and more sensible decision-making goals, because you've got to be adaptable to be sustainable, because as a lot of people I'm sure find, consistency will always trump training consistency will always trump anything over quality of work, and it's how you get that is as much about the routine and the habit, those good habits you form on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's the small bits that add up to the bigger result, for sure.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that bit where you were saying around maybe that search for perfection? So even if I got third, I wanted second. I think sometimes that can be a negative spiral, that you always want more because you become hard on yourself, even in training. Where I could have run harder today, or I could have done this, or I could have done that, I could have gone further. Is that something that resonates with you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you read, the thing is, I think, and again, I found this like in the sport, when you're starting out in things, you get fed a lot of, second best is first loser, and a lot of lines that are they're very motivational in that short space of time, and they're very kind of high energy motivational one-liners, and very kind of almost testosterone. I can't even say the word, you know what I mean? Yeah. Spiking kind of adrenaline rush kind of thought processes. And while that's good, I'm an endurance runner, and my warm-up is going to be different to a sprinter who needs to perform for over 10 seconds or 20 seconds. And I noticed when I was younger, I fell into a trap of, I'd listen to a lot of music in my warm-up because I liked music and it would get me amped. And I would start a race or start a session so amped that within a couple of minutes of starting a 5K, I was exhausted. Mentally, I was exhausted from just being so amped. And I realized, that's not the time I need my energy. I need my energy for the back end of the race. And I started removing a lot of stimulus and looked into more calming kind of things before I started, like removing the music, removing myself from social situations, because I'm a very social person. I'd turn up to a race, I'd be high-fiving everyone at the track, I'd be wanting to enter a conversation with everyone I passed. If I went to a BMC race, I'd want to go to the 200-meter start and talk to every single person around, which is great. But for performance, I was just, I needed to, as the races got longer, I needed to calm myself down. And now I'm doing a marathons, it's even more like, you almost need to be, I almost need to try and make myself almost half asleep on the start line so that I wake up during the race.
Yeah, I completely understand. I'll tell you where my mind went then when you were saying about you're basically being overstimulated before you've even started the race, which is obviously exhausting. I think it'll resonate with people in the audience, those that are working from home now, is when you're spending all day on Zoom, you're just constantly in conversations, you're absolutely knackered and drained. And as a runner, come 4 or 5 o'clock, you're hoping to go for a run before dinner, you hit that lethargy point. So whilst you're talking about it, in terms of your race build up, which probably starts days before, when you get into those camps and spending so much time with people, it is just sheer overstimulation, isn't it?
Well, exactly. And I think it's one of those skills of, and again, it sounds a bit of a cliche, controlling your own emotion. It's something I've had to really learn. I'm a very emotionally driven person. It's a part of who I am. And when I was younger, it was everything was I was a very reactive kind of child to things, in a good and in every good, bad, whatever way. And I think that fed into my running, and I had to learn to. I remember another one. So I was 18, and I ran in the under-20 European Championships, and I was favourite. No, sorry, not favourite. To lie, I was second favourite in the race. There was a guy called Wolfram Muller, who was a German runner who was top of the rankings, and I was a second behind him, and the rest were nowhere on the ranking list. And literally everyone on the team, we flew out to Riga in Latvia. They were putting the medal around my neck. You're here to pick your medal up. You're here to pick your medal up. I was one of the last days to compete, and I was getting really amped and wound up by the fact that this isn't, I could win an international medal here. This isn't like, this is a huge thing. There was so much unknown about it as well, because domestically you kind of look in AW and you recognize names, you recognize, it's all familiar. I went out there and people put a vest from a different country, and suddenly you're like, whoa, they're good. You have nothing about them, just your brain's going wild. And I stood on the back straight, and a familiar face said something and I just burst into tears. Absolutely burst into tears, because I was so overwhelmed. And I finished second from last in the race, and I walked off the track just distraught. And I said to myself, I can't ever do that again. I can't ever get that wound up ever again, because I will not be able to function. If I ever want to compete at that kind of level, I've got to learn to control that. And that was and I'll be honest, I've never cried on the track again, which is good. That's a positive step forward. But I have got overwhelmed before, but not to that extent. And I think it's about allowing yourself to be emotional without it being detrimental. And it was a real challenge for me. And even now, it's not easy. There's a lot of stimulus and a lot of noise that you can, if you can come in, of consequences of all these different things that could happen if you don't do well, and you have to control that.
There's a lot of things you said there resonated, and a lot of the athletes and people we work with, you talk about, fire in the belly, ice in the mind, so in terms of, because you're clearly passionate, you love the sport, you want to compete, you want to compete for your country, but at the same time, you've got the other side of you where you're an extrovert, you love spending time around people, so you want to chat to people, you don't want to be seen as being rude. So you have to prioritize that orders at the right time to be able to perform. So before we go into, your progress through it, I just want to say to the guys, there's a few people in the audience putting their hands up, which obviously they want to contribute, which is fantastic. But Nathan is in the chat box, which is who's the head of human performance here for Pro-Noctis. So please throw any questions in there, start having a discussion with Nathan. He'll manage that chat box. So please engage with us. And those that have submitted early questions through emails, I'm going to do my best we can to get through it. We've probably got about 150 questions. So I do apologize if we don't get to your question.
I've got plenty of time.
Yeah. So Chris, talk us through your journey then. Whistle Stop Tour, you talked about, coming through the youth ranks, and it was all about the passion of it. When did you think you could, right, I can do something with this now, I can make a career out of it?
To be honest, I think that was a very organic thing. I think we all in life sometimes probably find it hard to believe we'll end up where we sometimes end up, and almost have to stop and go, how have I ended up here? Because you take each step, and there was no point where I thought I could be an Olympian until it actually became a distinct possibility. And I think that's you almost need that precociousness in the moment without looking too far ahead. And I think we can all, in any line of work we do, sometimes you kind of pinch and go, how? And I don't think I certainly didn't map out my career of my achievements and at any point think I could have think about it until I'd done it. The only time it was in 2012, obviously London Olympics. That was the only year where I really took myself seriously. Like Gemma and I were based in America at the time, at Oregon Track Club Elite. And for those who don't know, it was a Nike funded team based out of Eugene in Oregon. And it was coached by a guy called Mark Rowland, who was a 1988 bronze Olympic medalist over the steeplechase, who had coached Gemma for a long time. And we were working with him, and it was the closest thing I could describe to having a performance team, almost like being in a football team environment where you had your physio traveling with you, you had your coach with you, you had so many things where you were traveling as a team. We had blazers because Mark is an English and he's a real British guy. He wanted a lot of British things, so he loved us all, got us all fitted in blazers, and to travel. The Americans weren't so keen on it, but it was something that at that moment I felt like if I'm gonna reach my peak, if I'm gonna be an Olympic medalist, this is how I'm gonna do it. I'm in this situation. I believe, and I'm gonna believe the impossible. And I think that was the year I really put myself a little bit on a pedestal. And obviously, those who don't know, I unfortunately broke my sacrum in about 2 months out from the Olympics, and it became a very different journey. And I don't know if anyone's seen the film Apollo 13, which is about the failed mission to the moon, but it's called it's tagged the successful failure. And those who haven't seen it, it's a great film. You should watch it. Tom Hanks, really, really famous film. And there's a moment in that film where something happens shortly after takeoff, and Tom Hanks is asked by Houston to do something, which basically means once he's done it, they can no longer go to the moon. And he turns to the guys and goes, "We've just lost the moon." And that's what it felt like to me. When I broke my back, I felt like I've just lost the moon. And you then realize, as those guys in that shuttle, that it was then about saving their lives and getting back. And obviously it's not quite the same extreme, but then I realized I shot for the moon. I believed in it. But I'm about to lose everything. I might not even become an Olympian here. And suddenly I had no time, and I had to switch my mindset. Otherwise I could lose everything here, and everything I fought for through my career. And it became like a real, like my own personal successful failure. I made the start line. I ran the race with a broken sacrum, with a torn hamstring, and ran 29 minutes for 10K. And there was a real kind of moment with the support team. We go, well, wasn't the moon, but it was something. And so that was 2012 was probably the moment where I thought, but as a lot of people in their career, it's not everyone gets to land on the moon.
No, absolutely not. And I know we got Richard on the call, who actually he also went out on a scholarship to Oregon, so he'd be glad you sort of referenced that. But what he also referenced was injuries and bouncing back from them. So can you share a little bit of your experience of what you've learned and what you could share with the other runners and sports people on the call, that maybe is an approach you've learned through experience.
For injuries, you mean?
Yes. Yeah.
Injuries are again. They really are. They're tough. They really are tough. And the problem is, especially with running, because it's impact. I'm sure everyone's had things where, you know, 1 minute you're running really well, and next minute you go in this cycle of weeks where you can't string any running together, and it's so infuriating and frustrating. But I think, obviously, I can't vouch for actual individual injuries, but all I can say is that taking a step back and not allowing the emotion of the frustration of an injury dictate your decision making is so important. You know, seeking advice and changing your routine to suit your situation is always going to end up with better results and get you back running to where you want to be. And there's no easy way around that that frustration. I compare getting injured for a runner, for a lot of us, like an animal being hit by a car. They don't understand what's happened, and they keep trying to run even though they've broken a leg. And that's endurance runners tend to be a bit like that. We just don't want to accept what's happened to us. But you can find goodness in injuries. I mean, I've had injuries where I've done alternative cross training. Like I love the Nordic ski machine, and I've run very fast off the back of, I ran 27:40 for 10k when I fractured my back in 2012. Sorry, that I had to have 3-4 months off, I think it was. And I Nordic skied the whole time, and then I had 6 weeks of running, and I ran 27:40 for 10k. It was boring being on a Nordic ski machine in my living room and in my underwear, and annoying Gemma, but you can do it. It's just setting your mindset to a different challenge and making the best of it. And it's like I say, it's not letting that emotion control your decision making, and it's not easy, but it's part of the impact fear, or the running. The impact can really cause that, put us on that red line.
Is there an element there about addiction to running as well? Because I think that hitting that flow state and hitting that, that sweet spot, whatever speed that is, can be quite addictive. And I think people push themselves through pain, through barriers, through that addiction. Is that something that maybe you've seen before in others or in yourself?
Yeah, I think it's there is an element of that. I think that running is something, and sport can, but especially running is something that you become very who you are very much comes out. It very much pours. Like Gemma and I often talk about, when you watch athletes race, they can't hide who they are, because who you are comes out. And I think injuries or anything, your raw emotions are put on the table, and we've always had to live our life with "this is us," because you walk out into a stadium of 80,000 people and you're not at your 100% best. It's quite an intimidating environment, very intimidating. And I think that's something that it's something that you do. Not necessarily addicted to it, but it's something that you get drawn to, the fact that you keep trying to, you really get to know yourself, and it's almost something that you keep thriving off and trying to almost better yourself and execute things better.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of execution, obviously there's the physical element and then the mental element. How do you prepare yourself psychologically for a hard training block?
It depends what it is. It depends on a thing. I think mentally, it's again, it's like I said before, you've got a block ahead of you, and then you have to take it into bite-sized chunks. And so often, I try to use running as sometimes almost like a running meditation in my mind. Like I break things down into a visualization, or I love maths as well. So if I'm on a run and I'm doing an hour tempo, I quite often will like try and do the maths of if I've got 3 miles to, if I've got 20 minutes to go, I'll break that down in that, well, that's 4 miles, and I'll visualize a 4-mile loop that I know and love, even if I'm not on that loop, and it makes me feel at home. So I think a lot of that goes on in my mind to break it down, but also reminding myself that quite often when you don't feel like you wanted to do something, you never regret a run. You never like get back from a run and think, oh, I wish I hadn't done that. And so you know that feeling of wanting to get out the door usually will bring about some pretty nice results when you get back, and be proud of yourself when you get back.
Yeah, you always regret the run you didn't do, didn't you? That's for sure.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Let's. I'm conscious of time. I can't believe time is flying by. So,
Oh, crikey.
yeah, no, unbelievable. I think we could chat all night. Get the kettle on. Let's talk about specifics around you then and your training. So, what's the average week look like? You know, what distance are you covering? Does it depend what you're working towards? Because obviously you're multidisciplinary, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, at the moment it's marathon stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a lot of marathon stuff at the moment. I've obviously done a lot of 5K, 10K in my life. I mean, marathon has brought about a lot of unique challenges for me, because running shorter stuff, it tends to be big highs and big lows in terms of the training and the recovery. But with marathon, you're kind of towing a much more kind of a line of you're carrying a lot more fatigue, but you're not going as intense. So it's almost like you're constantly moody. But I've had to really adapt a little bit to that, because especially as I've gotten older, because listening to my body and listening to what's happening has been really key for me, to try and maintain as I've gotten older the level of the high level I'm trying to run at. So like with recovery and stuff, recovery is become something that I've really had to focus in on. So things like hydration is something that well, Gemma knows I'm very good at it generally, but hydration is something after a session I have to, especially with marathon, you get so depleted from fluids and glycogen that I really have to get that in quick and get that in fast, because if I don't, I really know about it for the rest of the day. And so I'm very conscious of these things, and I'm very conscious of the fact that my session doesn't end when I stop running. My session ends the 2 hours after, when I've done all my little pieces that I need to do to ensure that I can come back in a few days and come back and train hard again.
Are you a big fan of protein drinks and that after as well?
Yeah, it's funny. Like when I was younger, I didn't do anything. So I learned a very harsh lesson when I was a younger athlete, and you're very naive to a lot of things. And I had it was in my early 20s, and every season I would have this point where I would just bonk, and I would just be doing sessions and races, and then suddenly I had nothing, and my body would just flatline. And I had a load of tests done, and it turned out that my immune system was, so you have your white blood cells, but there's a couple of different types, and effectively my wall of defense had weakened, and it was the army behind it, the lymphocytes were coming into play to battle for me. And because of that, I didn't have as much energy and an immune system to allow me to function to my high. It wasn't like I was ill. It was just a case of you need a good immune system to function. And I started to learn a lot more about nutrition and what I needed to do to improve things. And so hydration, when you finish running, hydration, you increase your core temperature, which reduces ever so slightly, knocks your immune system for that period after you've trained, and also it makes it very hard to eat and consume stuff. And so you need to drink to then bring your core temperature down, get your immune system to settle down, but also if you need to hydrate, because to actually take on glycogen you need 4 molecules of water to 1 molecule of glycogen. So if you're dehydrated, if you don't have the fluids in there, you won't take on the glycogen you need to replenish the stores. And all these little things I started learning, and I thought, right, I need to look into recovery drinks. I need to look into things like that to start the process, because again, I'll be a quick little bit of a nerd thing, as my coach explained it to me. So you've got your glycogen stores in your muscles is like a wine bottle. I'm sure we've all seen a wine bottle recently, but it's like a wine bottle. You've got all this space to store wine, but a very small spout at the top to get it in. And it's a very tricky process to fill up your glycogen stores. And obviously what hydration is one of the way is you cannot pull that glycogen into your muscle unless you have the fluids there to do that. And obviously with the increased core temperature after you've trained, it's very hard. I've sat there with a big plate of pasta and I can't get it in my stomach. I just can't eat it because I just can't get it in. And so hence why recovery drinks and protein glycogen are key for me, because if I don't have them, I've had days where it's taken me 2-3 extra days to recover, and I get this glycogen depletion, where my stores haven't fully operated. And I don't know if this resonates with people, but if I then go to do a session and I haven't replaced those stores, and I go and try and do a session, I will be fine. Then I'll get to a point where I just can't run any quicker, and I have to slow down to keep going. And what it is, your heart rate gets to a point where you can't function at that higher heart rate because you need the glycogen to allow yourself to push through that barrier. And so I have to take another day off, go home, eat, drink before I can go again. So it's a real important phase after you train to do that, and it became and I learned the hard way a few times. And again, for me, if I do it too often, then I can end up in a situation where I can get really adrenally fatigued, and it becomes more than just training fatigue. It can become an issue for me.
Yeah, of course. And I think a lot of what you said chimes, and a lot of the athletes we work with talk about, yes, I finished that workout, but I need to prepare for tomorrow. Because I think sometimes people look backwards and go, well, I've done that run now, that's sorted. So I'll grab something in an hour, I'll have a shower, I'll check my emails, for us workers. And then all of a sudden you've lost that magic time of getting that ahead of the game for tomorrow's session.
Well,
that definitely resonated.
Exactly. And obviously we have a lot of people, we all have a hectic life, and there's a lot of things going on, but that's where what's been fantastic is all these products that help make that process easier. And it's, I remember a long time ago, I say long time ago, I never did this, but you hear like, was it carbo loading? And the idea of that is you fast yourself for 2 days and then you eat. And the idea of that was to get more glycogen into your muscles, but it was so hit and miss. It wasn't a very a great way of doing it. Hence why the advances of understanding how it works and the things you can do to getting more bang for your buck out of these protein drinks and the hydration. It's been a game changer especially for endurance events.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely, and I know obviously HIGH5 are pushing the boundaries consistently with that. And I think Vicky was saying that for her triathlon, she was sort of taking one of the energy drinks as part of the hydration pack about an hour before the race, and then an energy gel 20 minutes before, and then obviously depending on the duration of her race, she might have 1 or 2 on the way around stuck to a water bottle. So what's your sort of nutrition plan then, sort of leading into a big marathon race? Let's go back to London. I know it was a half, but what's your nutrition plan do on the day?
So I tried to keep it as relatively similar to a normal training day. I mean, the morning of a race isn't too different. It's the days before that the 2 days before I try to eat more and stuff like that. But I do. I've tried a lot of these HIGH5 Zero drinks, and they really they taste good, and they've also make the drinking a lot that you need to do a lot easier, because drinking can be a bit mundane, but I keep banging on about it, but I can't emphasize how important drinking is. I constantly am telling Gemma, you need to drink more. But I also will then have a protein drink on an afternoon, on the days, around dinner as well, just to keep topping up. Yeah. Because you still need to have your meals, but those drinks are there to sort of supplement. And again, morning of the race, normal breakfast with a protein drink, with the hydration, and then you're off. But I am new to HIGH5, but in terms of like during the race, because the slow release stuff, that's this kind of idea of slow release energy for in races is becoming a bigger and bigger thing in endurance running, especially in marathon. We've obviously all heard of hitting the wall, and this is an area that has, for me, really changed the game a heck of a lot when it comes to the final stages of a race, because obviously the challenge of, I mean, I've done marathons from many different angles before slow release technology or any of this was around. When I did it rawly, I've done it with no drinks, and I tell you, now that we've got this kind of energy stuff within a race, it's completely changed the dynamics for me of getting that energy within a race, because it's a real, because those messages, it's a lot about without too much detail, a lot about getting that message to the brain. You have energy. We have this fight or flight mechanism in us. We always try to save that little bit of energy in case it's back in when we were hunters and gatherers, that if a lion popped out, we've got the energy to run away, even if we're exhausted. And there's always that survival mechanism in our head. And it's the same with marathon. And these gels are really helping us push through those barriers. And it's really making a big difference. You're seeing, I don't think it's any coincidence, you're seeing a lot of elite athletes running PBs all over the joint, club athletes, everyone is finding that there's a boom in marathon running because of things like this that are coming into the game.
Yeah, it's understanding the science behind it, especially those the nervous systems, isn't it? You know, trying to keep the right one alive and shutting down the other one. Otherwise, we get into that fight or flight mode, and the body starts shutting down way before we even know it. Then we hit the wall, and it's a bit too late to come back from that. Just because a couple of questions have come in regarding nutrition. Have you ever looked at taking protein drinks the morning of a race?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so protein is simply put is a way of if having a better efficiency of muscle activation and usage in a run, you need those amino acids in your system to operate efficiently. Endurance running is all about the efficiency of your aerobic system, your muscular system, everything is about that efficiency, and protein is a key player in muscle activation. So yeah, it absolutely. I like I say, I'm around. Try to at least get 100 grams of protein a day, which sounds a lot, and it is a lot. But again, it's largely to do with the amount of running I do. Yeah. But it really makes a difference. If I don't get, I can now tell the difference if I'm low in protein or I'm low in glycogen or I'm dehydrated, because quite a lot of the time those signs are all the same. If we feel hungry, we might be thirsty, or and even when you're hungry, it might be because you need protein, or you might be. It's a very kind of thing that I've been doing this for 26 years, and you just get used to the use. I'm hoping when our child is born, I know the difference when he cries, what he wants. Does he want milk, or does he want me to play with him? I don't know, or he wants to sleep. But that's how you get in tune with your body. And that's one of the biggest reasons I've kept myself going in the sport. I've started to recognize the different signs in my body of the type of adrenal. I mean, when I finish a session with my coach, we don't talk about times or numbers. We talk about how many days do you need to recover? I need to get on top of this, and this. It's never about the performance of the session, because that's a given now. It's always about what I need to do to get ready to perform in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, and then you've wrapped that quite nicely into a bundle there. So you're saying that you're in tune with yourself. So I'm guessing not just when you're running, so you know how taut your skin is or how dehydrated you are or how much you're sweating. Is it things when you're not running, when you haven't got your trainers on, in terms of sleep hygiene? You've talked about nutrition and hydration and rest and recovery. It's the whole package, isn't it?
It is, and I think we all are guilty of ignoring signs, and whether through running or not. So one of the things that I try to if I'm adrenally fatigued and I know that it's probably not a good idea to do a hard session, I look for things like I'm more irritable than normal. I can't concentrate as easily. When I wake up in the morning, if my appetite's not as good, if I have a restless night's sleep, there's lots of things like that, which we all are familiar with them, but they're the kind of signs that tell me, you know what, you're depleted. This isn't just tired from training, you're depleted. Another one is if I need a 5-minute timeout, if I can't bring my heart rate down and lie there and shut my eyes and actually feel like I'm sinking in and relax, I know I'm too wound up. And I often, after a session, and it's a good thing to do when you finish a session,
wet finger.
Get some fluid in.
It's not working with a laptop.
Oh, sorry. You get some fluid in, and then take 5 minutes. You're right. You take 5 minutes to just reset your own body. You just take a 5-minute timeout, and it's something that makes a huge difference. Just to know that I have the ability to calm myself down, and if you're finding it difficult to calm yourself down, then you might need to dedicate a little bit more time. Because I always say to Gemma, if she's a little bit, for either of us, if we're a little bit stressed, you'll always be, if you've got an hour to complete a task but you're wound up at the start of it, if you give yourself 20 minutes, you'll probably get it done in the 40. If you try the whole hour to do it, you probably spend the whole hour just stressing and it might not be as good. So giving yourself that little bit of extra time is huge. And I'm recognizing those signs is a really powerful thing, I think.
Yeah, wise words. I'm conscious we're going to jump into the Q&A in a minute. I've got a load of questions and they're still coming in the chat box. So throw them in there, guys. We'll do our best to get through them.
Go on then.
So where are we at right now, though, in terms of this year? Obviously, you've got plans, goals, etc. Where are we at?
So yeah, no, Gemma and I are, I think I'm all right to say we're expecting, because which is fantastic. I've got an Olympic trial race due 2 days after he arrives. Well, due to arrive, which will be challenging. And then hopefully in Olympics, if I make the team. I mean, who knows what's going to happen in Tokyo, but you got to plan like it's going ahead. But this year I'm in full blown. I did an hour tempo this morning. To give you an idea, this morning I did an hour tempo, and I averaged 5:14 pace for an hour, which is my kind of low end kind of. It's almost like I'd like to call it. That's my padding. That's my padding around the big sessions, which is, when you can do that, it's a good sign. And if I can come back tomorrow or Saturday and repeat and keep repeating that, then I know it's going well. But yeah, it's a big 6-7 weeks coming up, and fingers crossed if I can. I say pull it off, but it's you got to have that respect for the challenge ahead of you without fearing it.
Yeah, for sure. There's a quick question.
Someone just popped up. That was per mile, 5 minute 14 per mile pace for an hour. Sorry, I just saw that.
Well, it's a given, but on behalf of everyone, congratulations to you and Gemma, that's for sure.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the best for your qualifications, and hopefully we get some success with the Olympics going ahead as well. So
yeah,
are you ready for a quick round of Q&A?
Hit me, mate. Hard as you like.
Right, okay then. So there's a few people, actually. This was a theme from a lot of people that are going out and doing multi-events. So what they mean is they're doing 5 days of half marathons. It's an endurance competition, or they're doing 5 marathons in 5 days. Any top tips in terms of planning, preparation, recovery, etc.?
Yeah, that's well, fair play to it. People that are doing that. that's a really good challenge. I've often thought about doing things not necessarily like that, but certainly things when I finish running, doing challenges like that. I think a really good, and I thought quite often you think about different tips, and there's so many different things, but one of the ones I've started to do in the last year to adapt for my own program that I think has been very useful is, especially off the back of the pandemic and we can't use gyms, is incorporating very short hills within steady runs. So if you go out the door, if your normal steady run is half an hour or it's an hour, very low end, just within that run, just do 8 to 10, like 15, 20 seconds hill strides. It's a really good tool just to keep yourself activated. It's almost like your gym work that obviously we can't do at the moment. It's a really good way of just keeping your body activated and trying to keep any potential injuries at bay. And it really can help. I often do that the day before a long session, just to wake the body up and get it making certain everything's firing. And it's something I tap into semi-regularly, like probably once a week, just to do some short hills. Nothing's going to tire you out, nothing that's going to leave you with any DOMs, and then and set you up for sessions. I think that's been something that I've really found. I look like I'm looking at reminding myself of the kind of things I was trying to think of, but be adaptable is something that I found is, again, off the back of the previous discussion of what we're talking about. Don't feel like just because it's written on a piece of paper you have to do it. There's a plan there, let that plan be adaptable. And so if you're feeling like you are tired, you're feeling like you might be a little bit glycogen depleted, or you're a bit irritable, give yourself another 24 hours. You're not going to lose fitness in that time. And even if you're mentally a bit fatigued and you just need to you'll be amazed how one night's sleep can make you mentally feel a lot more on top of yourself. I've done it many times, and it's a brave thing to do because we feel guilty, but honestly, it really makes a good difference. And off the back of that, if you are feeling a bit, and I'm guilty of this, I get, again, if I've got a training session I've got to do, I have to do that session because it's my session. Well, if someone else is doing a session, why not do it to have company, and then just do a little bit of what you were going to do at the end to keep it relevant to you? But jumping in and trying to jump in and having company is a really good thing to do. And your body's not going to know whether you've run 8 by a K or whether it's done 5 by 4 minutes, for instance, or whatever it might be. It just knows that you've been out and you've raised your heart rate. And so I think that's a good tool. So if you're feeling a bit mentally like I need company, don't be frightened to jump in with other people's sessions and then add a bit of your own. And I think, again, going back to another one we've talked about, is when you have these plans and you have these goals, create habits that you can follow and routines that are sustainable. I think that is a really big thing. I think having a day-to-day habit and routine is a much better way of approaching it than having the goal as a consuming thing every day. I think that there's some of my, I can go on with more tips.
No, it's great. I think Todd who asked that question, I think he'd be chuffed to bits with that. And I think it links to, there was another question, and forgive me, the name escapes me. I'm just proving I read the emails. Somebody was saying they were going off to do an endurance event with their friends where they'd already, it's for the first time, and they know they're going to do an element of jogging and walking just to get through it. But in their mind, they've already got a plan of splitting it down, whether it's a 5-mile run followed by a 1 or 2 mile walk, or a 75-25 split. For me, as a performance coach, I'd be saying exactly what you just said. We'll actually be flexible with it. If you feel okay, then carry on jogging a little bit. If you need to slow down and go into a walk, then that's it, because it's about the overall duration, isn't it, rather than a set plan.
Exactly. And I think we, running is hard enough as it is. You don't need your own kind of guilt or pressure to add to it. Your mind is there to help you, and there's no one that's going to tell you off there. Everyone, your body is an incredible piece of machinery, and it wants to help you do what you want to do mentally. You've just got to learn to listen to your body every now and again, because ultimately it's your brain that moves your body. not the other way around.
Absolutely, and that ties in with the old adages. The hardest thing sometimes is getting the trainers on, and the hardest
Yeah.
will be the first one when you start playing tricks on yourself. Okay, Paul was asking then, do you follow anything like the 80-20 principle in terms of high intensity and low intensity? Obviously, low intensity being 80%, or is it all just down bespoke to you by your coach?
A lot of it's all very bespoke to myself. I think when I was growing up, it was as I've gotten older, the amount of intensity has reduced significantly, partly because the intensity within a session has got a lot more intense because I've gotten older, I've gotten better, because I've got a better athlete, I can go deeper a lot more, and so that's I've reduced that a lot. But I don't have an 80-20 necessarily, but I do have I would say a 2-week cycle where I would visit hard sessions Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and on the second week on the Tuesday and the Friday, and then go back into that cycle. So over the course of 2 weeks, I'd look at 5 days being pretty intense. But again, when I was younger, I would look at 6 to 7 days within 2 weeks. So you adapt it based on you. But I think, like I say, with marathon running, I don't do as much intensity. I do a lot more kind of short hills for activation. I do the odd 5 and 10K session, but again, that's all to do with leg speed and efficiency for when I do the longer runs.
Okay.
But again, it's about finding your own your sweet spot for recovery. If you can recover 48 hours later, you've probably got it about right. If that starts egging on for 2-3 days, maybe you need to reduce the intensity so you can revisit it. But 2 to 3 days is a good guide for recovery off the back of a hard session.
Brilliant. And straight off the back of that, Sean asked a question around, is there any specific drills you do for maintaining your fast leg turnover when you're increasing your mileage? So imagine the stage they're at as a runner, they want to just maintain that for a longer duration.
Hills
again, yeah.
Again, like when I was younger, I would do specific drills, but hills are their plyometrics, their strength, their anaerobic, they're everything. And short hills are a great way of exactly that. It's a great way of getting those drills, because if you concentrate on form, the more you'll get back, rather than just running up it in a fatigued fashion. Run up in a controlled, high knees, chest up, good arms. That will give you the biggest bang for your buck when it comes to drills.
Brilliant. Okay, last couple of questions, and we'll do these quick fire. So what are your top 3 tips for someone who is training for their first marathon? It's London 2021. And how do you stay motivated in these challenging times? And that's from Scott in Buxton.
Okay. Top 3 tips. I feel like I've. I think listening to your body is key. To how much or little you should be doing. Don't try and compare yourself to anyone else. It's very much about you and your journey. And then with that, be adaptable. With your program, and try and find a way to find your own recovery levels, your own how much you can do in one go, because obviously it's as much about fitting it in with your lifestyle and stuff like that. And again, I keep saying it throughout this whole thing: routine, good habits. They really are going to pay off in the long run. So if you see your session, you're running, if you go out the door and you dedicate an hour of session, just tag on an extra 30 minutes in your mind. So it's when you come back in the door, that you've got another 30 minutes of your run still to go, but it's in your home, hydrating, getting the fuel on board, giving yourself 5-minute break. So don't just see running as the moment you go out and come back in. Tag on that 30 minutes before and that 10 minutes before to get yourself prepped before, and they'll start the recovery soon, because those are the periods that will get the biggest bang for your buck during the session and get you back out the door quicker and recovered.
Brilliant. And last question then before we go into the prize draw. So how did you cope with not being able to compete in any competitions last year due to COVID? And I will follow on. It's hard enough for us mortals trying to stay focused when all of our races were cancelled last year. So how do you non-mortals?
Listen, I was like everyone else. I threw a lot of toys out the pram. I mean, I was pretty gutted. I mean, I was 8 weeks from the Olympic trials when we went into lockdown, and I was in Spain at the time, and I had to fly back before I got trapped out there. And again, I think, and again, I said it earlier, I had to fall in love again with running through the routine and the well-being and the health of it, to be honest. It was, and take away the fact that there wasn't any competitions, and realize running is almost my sanity at times. You know, there's that saying, when you get up in the morning, make your bed to kickstart your day. And that's what running is for me. Running is how I kickstart my day. That's my first bit of my puzzle to complete that puzzle of that day is running. And I think that's through this pandemic, I have to say, that's what running did for me. It was my piece of my puzzle to each day.
Brilliant, great. Well, thanks. We could chat all night, Chris. I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah.
What we're going to do now, though, is we're going to go into this. What was the name we were going to call it? It was Bruce Forsyth's Wheel of Fortune or something like that, wasn't it? Yeah. So we've got 5 prizes, I believe, 5 separate prizes. Gemma, if you take a note of the name, what we've got, guys, is we've got everyone's name who's on the call right now on the right-hand side. I'm going to scroll through them. And Chris, when he's ready, is just going to say stop. And hopefully we won't pick up a HIGH5 employee because I don't know their names if it goes back in the hat. And what we'll do is, if we mention your name, Jem will be in touch via email to make sure we get your address, and we'll be able to send you out some HIGH5 goodies. So we'll start now, Chris.
And stop.
Elliot Digby Jones. Sounds like a very Welsh name. Pick me, Dominic Emery's in.
Yeah, Dominic.
Right, so there's one. Elliot Digby Jones will be in touch. Right, ready for another one? Go.
Yeah. Stop.
It is Mike Bannister. Is it Roger's relative?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Brilliant. Mike Bannister will be in touch. Right, third. Ready, go.
Stop.
Oh, that was a quick one. We got Sharon Harris Byrne. Congratulations, you were the third person. Well done. There you go. Kate,
yeah,
we need a lady next. It was on cue. There you go. You're welcome.
Got it. Yeah. Maybe I need to be quick. That's how we get ladies. Okay.
Right. Fourth. Ready, go.
Stop.
We've got Teresa Pollock. There you go.
Ladies on quick. There we go.
And I'm genuinely doing this. I'm not making it up. Right. And for the last one, we'll go 3, 2, 1, go.
I'll do a bit of a longer one this time.
Oh, here we go. Suspense. Everyone's on the line.
Drum roll, please. Stop.
Mike Scholes. There you go.
Oh, is that relative to Paul Scholes?
Yeah, probably. Must be connected. Brilliant. Well, we'll all be in touch, guys. Jem will be in touch regarding that, that's for sure. And we'll be able to follow up and get you some little goodies. Chris, from my perspective, we'll bring Gemma in a second just to wrap up, but we could have chatted all night. We haven't even gone in real great depth of any of the topics. And I know that's something that HIGH5 are potentially looking to do later on when there's a bit more time, maybe leading up to the Olympics, where we could really niche in on a topic. And I think that'll be really valuable for everybody. But, from my perspective, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
And engaging. It's gone so quick. Over to you, Gemma, just to wrap up from a HIGH5 perspective.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say thanks everybody for joining. I think what we'll do is probably follow up at some point and do something a bit more specific on marathon, because there was loads of questions coming through on marathon specific stuff. So I think we'll try and focus in very specifically on that as another key topic. So look out for that one coming up next time. I just want to say, if anybody is a member of a club, please do check out our HIGH5 Club Rewards program. It's on the HIGH5 website. You can sign up on the website and then speak to the club secretaries and get the club enrolled and be a part of these going forward. So we'd love to have you. The more the merrier. And we'd also love your feedback. So if anybody has any comments to make, please feel free to email me or put it in the chat. And positive, negative, we want to improve. We want to keep getting better at these, so we are very open to feedback, so please do send that in. But yeah, other than that, thanks Chris. I'll see you in a minute downstairs. Thanks, Phil.
Get the kettle on.
Yeah,
And thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, brilliant, Gemma. Thanks everybody from HIGH5 as well of providing the opportunity. I know everyone, you can see in the comments, everyone's found it really beneficial and give us a bit of, shining light in Chris in these difficult times. But we're nearly there, everybody. We're nearly there.
Yes, we're
Let's
nearly
stick
there.
through it. Yeah, take care, and we'll see you all again soon.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thanks everyone.